have that life is just here, because it is everywhere, and we're learning more and more all the time. The new Kepler telescope that looks out into space looks at 156,000 stars every 30 minutes. And it analyzes those stars, and it sees whether or not there are planets orbiting around them. And then it analyzes whether those planets are capable of holding life in our world. And to me, this is really a breakthrough, in the sense that you can have a vision, you can have a shamanic journey, you can go to other places where life exists, and you can come back with that. But to try to make a case, so much of the world that is bound into the ignorance of believing that the material is all there is, they need material proof. And we are now getting material proof. And the boundaries are disappearing between light and matter. And in the observing and listening and meditating on what happens between light and matter, we're now understanding that at the largest macrocosmic energies in our universe are dealing with the exchange and the transformation of matter into light and light into matter. And we now know, at least it is presumed and is agreed upon, that at the center of our Milky Way and the center of the galaxies there are these massive black holes that suck in the matter and spit out on the other side light in high energy streams that emanate throughout the whole of all the multiverses that we're now learning, because we're now learning not only there are universes, there's the multiverses, and there are many, many of them stacked. And in the Mayan world, they have a name for this place. They have two names. It's Paxil and Kayala. And those are the places where the most advanced conscious beings reside. And they have cities that move through time and space and visit different civilizations to infuse in them the technologies that will allow them to promote awakened consciousness and bring us to the present moment, so that we can practice the love, the compassion, the healing, the peacemaking, the understanding of the interconnectedness of not just human life, but all life and all forms of life. Because we've also found that the human, the biosphere and the human biosphere, that all life speaks through the biophotons. This is the primary language of all life. And information is stacked inside of life and light is carrying all this information. And when we bring ourselves up to the space and the frequency where we can perceive the information that is stacked in light, we do what I term photognosis. Photognosis is the direct understanding of information about life and the universe and time and eternity through light. And when one embraces this path and connects with the light, we transform, and then we have what I call photogenesis. And photogenesis is when life is reborn in light. And in all reality, we are light. We're just operating on a frequency that makes it solid. But as the frequencies go up, we learn that solidity is a ground. It's an anchor. It's an anchor to bring awakened consciousness into matter, and matter that has come down to the frequency of what we would call ignorance. And ignorance is not understanding the connectedness of all life. It's looking at life and seeing the separateness of life. And when that process is when people don't feel that you are, the Mayans have an expression, it's called Imna Lakesh. And Imna Lakesh means I am another yourself. And when we greet life that way, and it isn't just people that we greet that way, it's a tree, it's a plant, it's a bird, it's a fox, it's an owl, it's an eagle, it's a snake, it's an ant, it's all those microbes that are 90% of who we are that we don't even communicate with until we develop the language of light, which allows us to penetrate through the barriers of just seeing what is solid as opposed to seeing what is invisible. Because it's only by embracing and learning the great mysteries of the immense, infinitely large and completely unknowable stuff that we can work our way into the territories of learning new models and new forms. And that brings me to the 2012 question. People are always, have thought about the end of the world because of 2012 on December 21st, 2012. And it's really not the end of the world, but it's the end of what I call the forms of disharmony, the forms of separateness, and the forms of darkness and suffering. And what the opportunity, and it is an opportunity, it's not something that's going to happen automatically to anyone. It's each person's individual being that has to embrace and work to transform themselves to receive what I call the forms of wholeness, the forms of harmony, and the forms of radiance, so that we can radiate that universal light of consciousness and awakened present moment, and carry that with us in a joyful, loving way that will be healing for those who are looking for this, because people in the world are carrying immense burdens. And now we know, as the planet fills up with people, and the unconsciousness and the consciousness are struggling and working to try to find a harmony in between, so that more light can come in, more awakened consciousness can come in. Because if it doesn't, it means destruction. And I don't mean the destruction of the world, I mean the destruction of people and life forms and plants and animals. And so it is so important for us to reach into those spaces where we can feel and connect with that, and bring it into whatever form of activity or activities that we do as our profession, as our creative self works on these models of wholeness and harmony and radiance. And for me, starting way back, this is what the shaman did, and they were the first artist. And I believe that it is through the creative, not just in paintings and not just in sculpture and not just in music or dance, but those are the old forms that are being reborn and brought to bear in our culture to awaken our cultural conscience into providing spaces for this to happen. Well, this is what our galleries are about, and my work is about. It's been fortunate that my whole life has been introduced into this kind of thinking, and so when we do our art, we open up as a channel for the energy that it will explain and bring into a space, an experience for others to share in the peace that I find in my own work and in my own meditation and my observations. And for art, for me, works that all the experiences I ever have go in, and they're in there, and they're digesting, and they're working on what's going on inside me, and then at some point they rise up and they come out as an expression of what happened on the inside, and they give a view of the inner world and how the inner world relates to the outer world, because there's an old saying that the outer follows the inner, and wherever your inner is, that's where your outer will go. And it's important for us to understand that what happens is a result of our own responsible actions. The great Tibetan Rinpoche Padmasambhava, otherwise known as Guru Rinpoche, who brought Buddhism and the awakened sciences to Tibet, said, if you want to know what's going on now, meditate on the now. And when you have your experience now, that is a result of all your past actions and thoughts, feelings, and deeds. If you want to know what your future will be, practice an equanimous, loving, compassionate way, and that will bring all those energies into your path. For the way we relate to the now is paving our future karma and our future experience. So no one is free from these laws that we either learn to work with and unfold the mystery in the learning, or we sink down into the ocean of suffering. And we certainly can see in our world today that there's such a huge amount of suffering going on right now today at a world level, that it's imperative that more art, more sacred music, more sacred dance, more sacred forms of poetry and writing are created for everyone to share, to bring them to that moment in space where we're all recognizing that there is no separateness, and what we do to others will be done to us.